Welcome back. Today, I have a fantastic guest. He is the founder of urbanfarm.org, where he begs the question, what if there was a garden and fruit tree in every yard? Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Peterson, the expert urban farmer. We're going to learn how to urban farm. Mr. Peterson.
That would be my dad.
That would be your dad. Hey, Greg. Balloons. Cool.
Yeah, my computer, my new computer started doing that.
Dig it.
Where are you at?
I'm in Savannah, Georgia. Where are you at?
Oh, Asheville, North Carolina. We're close.
Oh, yeah, I love Asheville. We have a condo in Lake Lure.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, not too far. Little windy road away from you.
Yeah, there you go. I've driven by it a couple times.
But otherwise, I'm doing this crazy food challenge called Off the Shelf, where I can't eat any corporate food, processed food, or
good
processed food for a month. So you're coming in at that and making a documentary about it too. It's called Off the Shelf. So this podcast might end up in there as well. Just FYI.
Cool. Off the Shelf. Nice. I'm working on a new podcast idea with Judith Horvath. She's another podcaster that I know. And we're talking about how our food system is killing us and what we can do about it.
Well, you vote with your dollar. So it's not actually that difficult. It's a conscious choice that humanity has to make.
Exactly.
So good luck getting all of them on board, but one at a time, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So I literally just had the switch because I was doing like fast food challenges and frozen food challenges just because Ramsay and Guy Fieri and all their food has somehow made it into the freezer aisle. So I was doing all these taste tests to see whose frozen food was best. It's all garbage. Throw it all in the trash at the end. But I was eating the Banquet Salisbury steak compared to Gordon Ramsay's roast beef, and I fucking just lost it. This is not food. This is not. Nobody should be eating this. How is this even still possible? How do people vote for this? Who's buying this?
Right.
And that started this journey where I was just like, I can't do it anymore. I can't just keep garbage fucking pitting it. So we're eating all healthy, all natural, all farm to table as best as we can. I do buy some things, like I got my healthy Dorito chips.
Oh yeah.
All natural ingredients. There's 5 things in here. It's fine.
Good.
But yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to talk to you, and I'm a terrible farmer. My mom was an herbalist. We had gardens when I was a kid. I have a brown thumb. I couldn't even grow weed if I wanted to. I've tried. Trust me, I've tried.
Hold on. You couldn't grow a weed, or you couldn't grow weed?
Both. And trust me, I've tried. But I have a brown thumb, so maybe you can help me with that. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you real quick, if you don't mind.
Let's do it. Oh, good. How are you? Thanks for having me. We're in the midst of a cool thing right now. It's almost full eclipse out there at this moment. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, 2024. We just witnessed it.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
Unless I guess it's not. The day isn't over. We can have a sun flare at any moment.
Right. There you go.
I think we're gonna be okay though.
So eating out of your yard, urban farming. So a couple of times over the past 2 decades, I've spent time in Europe. I spent 3 weeks in Italy in 2004, and I spent 3 weeks in Croatia in 2014. And both times looking through them of the eyes of where their food comes from. And pretty much every single yard in both places, they had a garden.
Everybody.
And, we don't do that in this country.
Did they also have yards? Did they have yards and a garden, or was their yard the garden?
Their yard was the garden. I'm a big proponent of that. I know, right? So my yard in Phoenix, so I lived in Phoenix for 55 years, and 2 years ago bought 4 acres in Asheville, North Carolina. And my yard in Phoenix, I worked on it for 33 years while I was there, was an old growth food forest. And basically what that means is that food just grew. Like in a forest, like in the wild, food just grows everywhere. So I designed the landscape through this concept called permaculture to just make food. And guess what? It works.
Anybody can do it.
Pretty much. Pretty
I love
much. It's
that.
super simple. Here's the thing though. You have to understand you're going to kill some plants. So a couple of rules that I have for people is don't go in too deep right at first, and don't get discouraged when things die. Things are going to die. I promise you I've killed more plants than you have.
All right, so let's talk about that because starting from zero, I have a brown thumb. I literally can't grow anything. Me and my wife have bought so many orchids just to see if we can keep the orchid alive, and we cannot keep an orchid alive to save our lives. So, as starting out, somebody in an urban environment wanting to start growing things, what
Uh-huh.
is the easiest thing to start with? Where do we begin?
First of all, orchids are the hardest thing. I can't grow orchids. So just know
Well,
that
thank you.
it's not
I
an
don't
easy
feel so
one.
bad then.
Good, good. It's not an easy one. Orchids are hard to grow. Um, Here's what I tell people: the easiest thing to grow and the most expensive thing to buy is herbs.
Herbs. Yeah,
Herbs. If you
rosemary,
want
thyme,
herbs, basil,
sage,
and
basil.
you can grow herbs in a pot on your front porch or in a sunny windowsill. It's that simple.
So,
In fact, Trader Joe's sells, potted herbs that you can, harvest. So whenever we go on vacation, if there's a Trader Joe's close by, I'll go buy a basil plant, and they're usually pretty big there. And I'll use the basil for the week that we're on vacation, and then I bring the plant home and I stick it in the ground.
well, there you go. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know Trader Joe's sold Trader Joe's basil.
Yeah, well, there you go. Done that several
Trader,
times.
everything at Trader Joe's is Trader Joe's, but none of it's Trader Joe's. But all of
Right?
it's Trader Joe's,
Well, yeah,
right?
there
But
you
none
go.
of it's Trader Joe's. But all of it's Trader Joe's. I can't currently go to Trader Joe's even if I wanted to. But I can find a nursery around the area and grab myself some ready to go. What about just starting from seedlings? Do you
It's
recommend for a starter to even attempt seeds, or should we get the pre-rooted, ready to go, give us a leg up potted
Well, if
plants?
you're in a sunny windowsill, buy a packet of seeds, because that $3.99 basil plant that I just bought, for the $3.99, I can buy a packet of seeds, which will have, well, I don't know, 30 to 200 seeds in it. So it's a much better deal if you're that patient. I highly suggest you do it. And again, just get yourself a little pot. Make sure that you put some good soil in it. You can't just use dirt out of your yard. Your dirt out of your yard is not healthy soil.
Copy that.
And
What if we have a
yeah,
compost pile? We pull out of the compost?
for starting seeds, I would get a sterilized starter mix.
So we don't
It's
want the fungus and the mold and
exactly.
all the
Yep.
nasty microbes that are decomposing in our compost.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and they're not necessarily nasty. They're just nasty for the seeds, because we want that. We want that soil life. There's 5 components of healthy soil. Dirt is one of them. Dirt has micronutrients in it, but if all you have is dirt, the plants can't get to the micronutrients. So the 5 components of healthy soil are dirt, airspace, water, organic matter, and everything that's alive in the soil. And the healthier that your soil is, the healthier the plants that you're growing are going to be. So if you get a nice potting mix, you can just buy a small bag of it and put some potting mix in a pot and sprinkle some basil seeds on top, and then water them every day. I would guess that before long you're going to have little basil plants coming up. It really is that simple.
Let's talk about the actual process. So do we like cover with plastic wrap or do any of that, or we just put them in the soil and just give them some spritz and let them
Yep,
just chill? They spritz them
yep,
every day,
yep. And then
once
about
a day,
basil and
twice a
yep,
day.
you don't want them to dry out when they're seeds. So you just have to pay attention to them. So if you're watering once a day and they're drying out by 2 o'clock, spritz them again.
Just keep them moist. Keep them
Keep them
moist.
moist for the first 6 weeks of their life. You want to keep them moist, and basil will come up in about 3 days. It's actually pretty cool.
Mm.
And before long, within 6 weeks, you're going to be harvesting your own basil. Yes, it is that simple. Because what we have to do as human beings is we have to get the hell out of the way. Let nature be nature.
Right?
Yeah.
It knows best. Nature knows best.
Yep. Well, and nature's always going to bat last.
Mm.
Nature will
So
always
and
win.
once we have our basil going, and let's say we have a small yard or a little outside area where we can transplant them to, make a
Mhm.
little outside area and just go out and put them in the ground.
Yeah, again, healthy soil.
So
You want to put
we're gonna lay some fresh topsoil, some
some
bought
fresh
topsoil,
planting mix. Topsoil in
planting
Phoenix,
mix.
Arizona, planting mix. Topsoil in Phoenix, Arizona is what they dig out when they're building a swimming pool.
And cool. We
So
don't want that.
they don't want that. Yeah,
No,
a good
potting
friend of
mix.
mine, a good friend of mine, Kari Spencer, her first garden 20 years ago, she went and dug some dirt out of her backyard and put it in pots and planted some seeds and planted some plant starts, and they all died because
Oh.
they didn't have healthy soil. So
Yeah. So do you have a recommendation for a brand of soil, or do you have any friendly soils that you know where we could get, I don't
well
know, farm to pot soil?
yeah, so it depends where you live. In Phoenix, Arizona, we have tanks. They have a really great brand. Here in Asheville, North Carolina, we have something called Dirt Craft. By the way, you can probably get some Dirt Craft down where you're at. Both of those product
Online
lines are,
maybe?
yeah, just check them out online. Here's the designation you want for soil. It's called OMRI certified. That's OMRI certified.
Okay.
It's generally organic.
Okay.
So
The
when
best
I
it can
buy,
be.
as best as it can be, because we live in a very polluted world. So, good luck trying to get something as organic as we can get it.
Got to go to the rainforest.
Right. Well, and you know what? They've even found microplastics in Greenland. So, we human beings have done quite a number on this planet, and our signature is everywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't know, right? We thought things were a good idea at first. We were like, plastic, oh, this is cool. We can use it for everything. And it's a large learning curve. It's a societal learning curve, and hopefully we're
Yeah.
on the other side of that curve, so we're on cleanup mode now. Hopefully,
Yeah,
working
exactly.
into cleanup mode.
Exactly.
All right, so we've grown some herbs. That was our step one. I've managed to keep some basil and some thyme, some oregano alive. I got it outside. I got some bushes growing. I'm now eating
Hmm.
all of my own herbs, and now I want to take it up a notch. Maybe I want some vegetables.
Yep. So
Maybe I
one
want
of
to
the
grow a
things
fruit tree. What am I
you
doing?
gotta love the fruit trees. One of the things that I suggest for people to do is look at your existing garden beds that you're growing plants in, and think about starting to shift those flowers and whatever else is growing in your garden beds to edibles. It does not make
Okay.
sense to me in any way, shape, or form to nurture a plant, grow it, fertilize it, and have it not be edible. So,
All that time just for looks. How very vain, America. How very vain.
right? So I suggest that people start thinking about how to transform their existing garden beds a little at a time uh, with edibles. One of the
Food.
things that you can do is buy a 6-pack of broccoli and plant them in your garden bed and see what happens.
Oh, just let it
And
go. Squash has beautiful flowers, right? When squash blooms, like squash has
yeah,
beautiful flowers, so you can get the best of both worlds. You can eat the squash and you get to enjoy the beautiful blooms for a minute.
there you go. Absolutely. And zucchini squash is something amazing to grow. So it'll be very, very productive.
Is there tomatoes are always theoretically a easy thing to start
Yeah.
with, or no?
Yeah, well, it depends where you live. They can be easy, and they're the gateway drug of garden plants. Everybody wants a good tomato, and so you'll be able to get good tomato starts. One of the important things to know in all of this is making sure that you're planting at the right time. And I highly
Moonbook.
suggest, go ahead.
Moonbook?
Moonbook. No, I have not heard of Moonbook.
No,
But you
like
mean
so.
planting by the moon?
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
the moon cycles, like
yeah.
the almanac, like the farmer's almanac, kind of.
Yeah, I've not done that before. I've heard it works really well, but what I'm talking about is getting a planting calendar for your area. So when I moved to Asheville, I got on Google and I typed in planting calendar Asheville, and that'll give you the plants and the season to plant them in. It's really important because
Cool.
we cannot trust the nurseries, especially the big box stores. They just bring in everything willy-nilly, whether it's time to plant it or not. So like in Phoenix, Arizona, this time of year in April, they will sell you a broccoli plant at big box stores. Wrong time of year. You're
Huh.
going to take it home, stick it in the ground, and it's going to immediately go to flower and not do anything for you. Same with
Uh, here-
cucumbers and same with cucumbers and watermelons in the fall. Just
Tell
wrong
me what
time
you
of
think
year.
of this.
Tell me.
So, if you just go, say, to your local farmer's market during farmer's market day,
Yep,
talk to your farmers. They know what's in season. They know what's growing right now. That's what's out there right now. And they
exactly.
probably know what's coming up next, what they're planting now. So you can just go ask them what's happening right now, what you could potentially buy from them, some starter plants. You don't have to go to a big box store. You can get them from your local farmer, right? Even
Yep,
set up a time for the next week so they can bring you what you've asked for, and you can eliminate the big box store, and you will be getting starters for things that they will be putting in the ground at the same time. I just had that
absolutely.
idea.
Yes, absolutely. And I highly suggest people avoid at all costs big box stores for plants, but that's a lot of places where people go. And so I like
Hmm.
to warn people off. It is highly likely that the plants that big box stores are selling in any given moment are not climate appropriate or season appropriate for your space. So, what Rayshan said,
And potentially GMO like plants that they just throw in there because they're easy to clone and just distribute.
yeah, probably. So there's as this is the good news about GMOs. As home gardeners, we're not impacted by them for the most part. And there are no GMO tomatoes on the market. There are, all the vegetables. Um,
No, because
it's
they own
not
the patents and they don't want you to have
right.
them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Right.
yes. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
yeah, definitely. I was at So True Seeds here the other day, and I bought a flat of 42 uh, plants, and I think they were $1 a piece, and they're starter broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage and kale and spinach, and they're really nice, locally owned company. I'm a big fan of that.
Awesome. What was the name of the company again? Broke up a little.
So True Seeds, SOW
So
True
True
Seeds.
Seeds.
Yep, they're a
So
great
True
local.
Seeds.
Yep. They're out of Asheville, but they sell open pollinated seeds all over the country.
Very cool. I like it. Um, there was something I was going to ask you. No, I can't remember what it was. Tomatoes, plants,
Welcome to my world.
big box, big box. Shoot, I
Well,
don't remember. Uh,
you mentioned fruit trees a little while ago. I am a
oh yeah,
huge fan of fruit trees. And the big reason is because you plant a fruit tree once and you get fruit for decades.
we just had to wait a few years till it actually
3.
gives us fruit. 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years.
3 years
3 years for
is what
fruit.
Yep, 3 years for fruit. First year for fruit production is all about establishing the roots. Second year is all about establishing the tree structure or the shoots of the tree. And the third year is about fruits. And
Nice.
we have a complete planting methodology that will speed that up a fair amount. Uh,
And will that the website that you mentioned before, would that tell us what fruit trees would be appropriate for us to grow in our climate as well?
No,
No. So how do we figure out
no.
what fruit trees we should grow in our climate then?
That is a really good question. I have run a fruit tree education program in Phoenix, Arizona for 25 years. And the way I did it, I actually planted my first fruit trees in Phoenix in 1975. So it's coming up on 50 years ago. And I experimented and I played with and I did my own research. And we cannot count on local nurseries or big box stores to bring in climate appropriate fruit trees for your area. So that's something you have to find. Maybe the cooperative extension has a list of fruit trees for your area, because it's very different for
Mm,
my area in Phoenix, Arizona than it is from your area in Georgia, and it is from my new area in Asheville,
in
North Carolina.
Asheville.
Totally different trees.
Right. All different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just do a little research. I guess we could
Yep.
ask the farmers too. We could just we go to the farmers market and just ask the farmers what fruits are actually they serving up. And
You know
I see a
what?
lot of apples in my area.
Exactly. And you know what? I just thought of this just now. Go to the farmer's market when the fruit is in season and ask them what varieties of fruit they are. Hey,
Ah.
what kind of peach is that? That looks really nice.
Oh, and
And
then
you gave me
we
that
can take
idea.
the we can buy the fruit, take it home, eat it, take the seed, and then grow our tree.
Kind of.
Kind of. Okay, not
Kind
100% on
of.
that one.
Not
All right.
well, no, I'm 100% on the kinda, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Most fruit trees are grafted, which means they take a Macintosh apple
Mm,
cutting and put it on an apple rootstock, so you get an apple Macintosh apple every time. And
okay.
what happens is with fruit trees is they cross pollinate. So it's kind of like
You
when you have a couple where they have, a blonde and a black haired person, and they have a baby, and the baby's a redhead.
so like we
It's
had a Fuji apple and like a sweet delicious apple tree next to each other, we would end up with
Mhm.
this sweet Fuji, a
It's
sweet D Fuji.
you get something in between, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I have a friend of mine here in Asheville who is growing 100 apple trees from seeds. So it is possible. It's just you don't know what you're going to get for 5 to 8 years.
Touche. You could end up with crab apples, not even know it.
Exactly. So if
So
you
you want
for
to get,
fruit trees,
so we want to get a starter. We for a fruit tree then for real,
yeah.
a clone or a.
Well, it's not a. I guess it is a clone, but it's not a bad thing. They've been grafting fruit trees for hundreds of years. So they take
Yeah.
a really nice in Phoenix, Arizona. It's an Anna apple. They take the Anna apple, they take a cutting on it, and they put it on an apple rootstock, and then all the apples that come off of that, they call it a scion. Off of that scion are going to be Anna apples, which are really nice. So,
Cool. I was watching a TikTok video the other day on pineapples, and it was you just cutting off just the bottom, the like bottom of the pineapple. You put it in water for a
yep,
second, it sprouts, then just go plant it,
yep.
and it'll grow a pineapple tree.
I've not. Well, it's not a tree. It's a little plant, but yeah.
Oh, it's a bush, right? It's more of a bush because the pineapple is
More of a bush.
technically somehow part berry. It's in the berry
Oh, good
family.
good question. I've never grown one, so don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Pineapples is technically a berry. It's a big old berry.
I love that.
Turns out, yeah. It's super good for you. So I'm into this now. I'm totally going to challenge myself to start growing some herbs first, and then work my way up. I go through a lot of kale, and you just excited me. And I'm like, you know what? I could just be going out in my backyard and just pulling my kale, pulling
Yep.
my lettuce.
And kale is super, super easy to grow if you got to have the right soil. So get some nice planting mix, not topsoil. Get some
Planting mix,
nice planting
planting
mix
mix.
and plant. You can do plant starts. I've got so one of the things that I'm going to do. I'm just out on my patio here, out in front of me. I've got about I don't know, about 100 plant starts, and those are going in the ground. And at the same time, next to the kale, I'm going to plant kale seeds.
Oh, so
It's called
you have this kale starter, and then you're just gonna add seeds.
Exactly, and it's called successive planting. So what'll happen is that in 4 to 6 weeks, the plant starts that I plant I'll be harvesting them, and then
Okay.
in in 8 10 to 12 weeks, I'll be harvesting off of the planted seeds. And the thing about kale, lettuce, broccoli, um, those kind of plants, they're called cut and come again plants. So for
Because they
kale,
rejuvenate.
exactly. For kale, you just harvest a bunch of leaves, don't take out the plant, and it'll keep growing. And they will grow for the entire season, and then they'll go to seed.
So
So
are they perennials that do they come back, or you
no,
need to plant it
they're
again next year?
so the kale I found in Phoenix is biennial, so it'll last 2 seasons. But
Okay.
generally speaking, the vegetable plants are annuals. You plant them every year.
Annuals.
Yeah.
Cool. Good to know. That's not too bad. I think I could do that. I feel like
Yeah.
I could pull that off. And
Yeah.
the same with the herbs, right? The herbs will I mean, almost like weeds will stick around and come back the next year, year after year. Basil,
Um,
particularly mint.
well, so here's the thing. Rosemary, mint, oregano, thyme, those are perennial plants in Phoenix, Arizona, and warmer climates, probably down where you're at in Georgia too. Rosemary is particularly vigorous, especially here. We have a rosemary plant in Asheville out in our front yard, and it's overwintered and did just fine. And then there's the annual herbs like cilantro and basil. And
Okay, so
I always let the basil go to seed and the cilantro go to seed and just let them, you know, show up where they show up.
let nature do its thing. Yeah,
Exactly.
because what? So where is the seeds on like kale and basil and like because you buy it at the store and you never you know you never see the seeds.
Right. So most flowering plants make a flower, get pollinated. They're either self-pollinating or cross-pollinated. They make a flower. The flower makes a pod, and inside that pod are the seeds. So kale, there's a flower off of a kale plant, and it makes this little pod that's maybe 3 inches long with maybe a dozen seeds in it. And it looks like a miniature bean
Hmm.
pod, actually. And then what I did in my property in Phoenix is I'd grab those pods and I'd break them up and just spread the seeds everywhere.
Ah, what about if you want to save them for the next season?
You can do that too. I found in Phoenix, Arizona, that they did really well when I just spread them throughout the yard and didn't even bother saving them. Just I'd break up the
No fear
seed
of
pods,
winter.
spread them out. Never exactly. Well, and the seeds aren't going to freeze to death.
No, no, no.
This no, the seeds aren't going to freeze to death. In fact, in nature, in the forest, nobody collects the seeds and replants them
And
the
waits
next
till the
year,
next season next year. Yeah, duh.
right?
Right.
That's okay. Well, it's they don't teach us this stuff,
Like, I mean, that seems like logical, right? Like, duh. But even I
right?
just was like, huh? Oh, right.
Right.
No
Well,
way.
and you know what? One of the fun things for me in Phoenix. So, the urban farm in Phoenix was a house where I lived for 32 years. It was on a third of an acre, 80 feet wide, 160 feet deep. And for 32 years, I just planted open pollinated seeds and let things reseed themselves. And often in the neighbors' yards, things like lettuce and cilantro and basil would come up in the neighbors' yards because the seeds just traveled, which is really cool.
That happens. And then they mowed it all down.
Yes, I know. I was teaching them.
All right. Oh man, all right. I'm gonna see if I can't turn this brown thumb green in the coming
Yeah,
weeks.
good. Yeah,
Because it's springtime.
the
It's the perfect time. It's spring, right? It's the
exactly.
ideal time to start.
Well, and
April showers,
the
spring, or May flowers, spring, April,
April showers
May
bring May
showers,
flowers.
spring, May flowers.
Yeah, something like that.
There
And
we
I
go.
and I contend that your brown thumb is a self-imposed edict. You did that to yourself. Let that go because planting a seed in the ground, right? Exactly. All you have to do is make sure that they get watered regularly. Just pay attention to them.
But
Don't let the soil dry out.
now, a thing that really does keep me, and I imagine a lot of other people just from doing it, is because I watched my mom break her back, and not break her back, she actually enjoys it, but weeding. Just
Oh yeah.
weeding every day, weeding, like it's perpetual upkeep, and that takes a lot of time. And
Hmm.
you got to bend over, it's, weeding's not an easy thing. So,
Right.
how do we, how much do we have to, like, tell me about weeding. What is the importance of weeding? How much do we have to do it? And how do we learn
Well,
to love it?
often weeds are edible in my yard.
Okay.
Right now, I'm wild harvesting dandelions for a dandelion tincture.
Mm-hmm.
So shifting your
Perception.
mindset about what perception about what weeds are. Weeds are pioneer species. They show up first. They mine the minerals from the deep soil. They loosen up soil. Weeds do a lot of great work. Yeah.
So
So there's that.
then they
There's that
die
piece
and,
of it.
and bring those minerals to the surface, right?
Exactly.
My
And
logical brain went back to working.
woohoo! And so what I do with I'm an elderberry farmer now. I've been an elderberry farmer now for about a year, and I have about 100 elderberries in the ground in about 300 linear feet of swales. And just as part of my weekly routine, I'll just walk down the swales. A swale is an on-contour ditch that catches the water as it flows down the hill. And I
Okay.
planted my elderberries in the swales, and then I added 4 inches of woody mulch on top of the swale. And that
So you
woody
just
mulch,
degrade into the soil.
yep, exactly. They break down into healthy soil long term. And that it makes it real easy to pull weeds out.
Ah, because it's loose.
Yeah, exactly. And so weeds aren't a bad thing. And as long as you're out in your garden, as long as you don't let them get out of control, um, you have to pay attention to your garden. If you're growing food, pay attention to the food you're growing, and you'll do great. Weeds are not
Yeah.
that big of a
Okay.
thing,
Hmm. And dandelion is super good for you. Like it is one of the best
right?
things for your blood, right? Like it's
Yep.
it's amazing. My mom was, like I said in the beginning, my mom was an herbalist, so I grew up in tinctures, echinacea tinctures. She made her own tinctures. She's still making her own tinctures, her own St.
Oh,
John's wort
cool.
oils, right? Like all of that. Like
There you
that's what I
go.
grew up with. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm very much a generalized American. Like we didn't go to the doctor. I have two hip replacements, so I'll go to a surgeon. but,
Well,
but generally
the
speaking, for my health,
yeah.
I just try to let
Well,
food be my medicine first.
exactly. We have a death care system in this country. They don't they don't look to see what the problem is. They just want to throw a bandage at it or a chemical at it or something at it. And so if you have a broken leg, my brother recently broke his leg, go to the doctor. If you have high blood pressure, what I want to know is what's causing that high blood pressure and address that.
What is your
And
diet like?
exactly.
What is your lifestyle like?
Yeah,
Yeah,
precisely.
because the majority of illnesses are, yeah, they're coming from the outside. they're,
Exactly.
and we're putting them inside of us. Then they appear.
Well, and here's
I
one of the
guess.
biggest things you can do for your health. And they've done studies on this before and found that if you're eating a primarily organic, now, organic is a really slippery slope, especially in this country. However,
Let's just go with
it
farm
is,
to table. I like to farm to table it. I like to get as
there you
local as I
go.
can. And you can't guarantee
Exactly.
that some of your local farmers aren't using some sort of pesticide on something, but you could assume that they're probably trying to be better because they
Exactly.
farmers are the salt of the earth, and your local ones they're eating
Yep.
it, so they don't want to poison themselves. So
Yep.
your
Exactly.
odds
So
are it's probably as close to organic as you are ever going to get.
right. Yeah. So, go organic, go local, shop at your local farmers market. That's part of the reason we chose Asheville, North Carolina as our landing spot. I was looking for someplace quiet. And the second thing is the food system here, the local growing food system is mind blowing. The amount of
I
farmers,
knew I
there's
loved Asheville
hundreds
for
of,
a reason.
right? There's hundreds and hundreds of farmers here that are, um, growing all kinds of local food. It's widely available. So
You know, if the breweries are getting all their, because there's so many local breweries in Asheville, getting their
there
like
is
barley and their um,
malt.
malt, their that other thing. I
There's
just
there's
can't
a
think.
there's a malting house here in Asheville. I visited it about a year and a half ago, and they take the grains and they malt the grains, and the place had to be
Hops,
hot. There you go.
hops.
The place had to be 250,000 square feet. This place was huge. You could drive semis into it. They had a bay where you could drive semis into it full of grains, and it was amazing, and their equipment was amazing, and I learned a lot there.
And that's where most of like the local breweries are
Yep.
getting their malt,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Dig it, Asheville.
Yeah. Woohoo!
Bravo. Bravo. Awesome. All right. So, is there anything, or what would you tell? I'm sure you do this on your podcast all the time, and I'm
Yep.
sure you say it to people all the time. But inspire me. Tell the audience why we need to start urban farming and take it upon ourselves to feed
Grow
ourselves.
our own food.
Yeah.
Our food
Why?
our food system in this country is broken. It delivers subpar, manufactured, highly processed food that is significantly negatively impacting our health. And we have to take back our food system. And we take back our food system by growing our own food, growing it locally. Um, Here's what I tell people about becoming a farmer: grow food, share it, and name your farm. And I don't care who you share the food with. If you're sharing it with your family, you can call yourself a farmer.
I love that.
So there you go.
Even if all you have is a 5 by 5 little space on the outside of your apartment,
There you
if
go.
you can grow it
One
and
of
feed it to somebody, you're a farmer.
Exactly. A friend of mine in Phoenix had two fat cats apartment garden. It was on her front porch of her apartment.
Can you tell me that again? I lost you for a second.
So a friend of mine in Phoenix had a farm name called Two Fat Cats Apartment Garden,
Um,
and it was a bunch of pots on her front porch. It really can be that
the
simple.
naming is important.
It is.
Why is
It is.
the naming so important?
It builds the conversation bigger. So you walk up to somebody and you introduce yourself and say, "Hey, I'm Farmer Greg, and I run the urban farm." Isn't that intriguing?
Mm-hmm.
It begs for people to ask you more about it, and it builds the conversation around local food better.
Awesome.
That's why it's important.
I love that. That is
Yeah,
fantastic. Greg, thank you so much. You have been an
you bet.
inspiration to me. You've made what seemed like a very scary venture for myself to dive into again seem a little easier and just take the steps necessary to start, right? Journey
Yeah,
of 1,000 miles starts with the first step, and my first step is going to be basil.
there you go. So, and we talked about healthy soil. Let me just throw this out there real quick. I've got a series of videos called Healthy Soil Hacked, and you can find them at healthysoilhacked.com.
I
They're
love
free.
it. Is a YouTube page out there too?
Yep, at Urban Farm.
Urban
And,
Farm.
and
Everything at Urban Farm. Instagram at Urban Farm.
Instagram is Urban Farm U. Facebook is The Urban Farm. Actually, I think my YouTube channel is under my name, Greg Peterson.
Either way, if we go to urbanfarm.org, we can find all those links.
Exactly.
Awesome sauce. Oh man, I could talk to you for another 4 hours, but I can't. But I want to.
All right.
Maybe I can check back in with you after I've
Yeah.
started growing some things, and I'll give you an update,
Oh,
and you can give me an update on how life's going for you too.
that'd be great. That'd be awesome.
Awesome, Greg. Well, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, go check out urbanfarm.org. Check out Greg. Go watch those videos on soil. Let's all start growing things and working together for our food sources so that we can tell those giant megacorps to go suck up. You know what?
Yep. Go suck their chemicals.
Go suck your own chemicals, you corporate bastards.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, tell Asheville I said hello.
All
I'm
right.
gonna give you a call if I ever make it up there, and maybe we can go grab a
Oh, that'd
local
be
beer.
great. That'd be great.
Yeah. Awesome sauce. All right, sir. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy Eclipse
Thank you.
Day.
You're absolutely right.
And yeah, I'll keep you updated.
All right, cool. Thanks.
All right. Cheers. Ladies and gentlemen, go check out Greg. Thank you so much. Go grow some food and a fruit tree if you can. Awesome.
Woo!